Hi there, welcome to another Assemble This video. I'm so thrilled that you're going to be joining me for today's card. It's all about scene building and creating a sunset background using some distress inks and rubber stamps. I'm just using some basic supplies to create this beautiful and serene scene. I'm featuring the No Better Words December 2020 stamp set from Unity Stamp Company. There are lots of little images in this kit to create a tree scene, plus a variety of supportive, sympathy, and all occasion sentiments. I'm starting out with some Strathmore Bristol Smooth paper. This is a sturdier paper with a super smooth surface, perfect for ink blending. I'm just tacking that down in my MISTI with some repositionable adhesive so it doesn't move. And then I'm just lining up my stamp here. I have a transparency down over my paper. I just want to make sure the placement of my trees is where I want it before I permanently stamp it on my paper. So it just gives me an idea and I can move it around or realign my stamp if I need to. Next, I grab some VersaFine Clair ink in black. And I'm just going to stamp that down, make sure I get a nice solid impression. Now I'm using that transparency one more time. I'm going to slide my paper over so I can get a solid tree line, kind of a horizon line of trees. And I'll just stamp that down. And then I realized that I should have done this in the landscape position of the MISTI instead of the portrait because I can't put that paper over on the other side. So I just turned everything sideways, re-stamped my tree image on that transparency, and I'm relining everything up again, and I'll stamp a tree on the other side. There's lots of ways to use this tree line. I could have done it, two stamps and just lined them up that way, but I really wanted that big bold tree right in the middle, so I chose to stamp that first and then two on either side. But you can play around with the placement of these trees. There's lots of options that you can use with this. Next, I grabbed that solid circle and I stamped it with some distress ink. This is fossilized amber. And then I just used my blending brush to kind of fill in the spots that didn't stamp perfectly. It's a great way to create a bit of depth in the image or in the sun. In this case, that way you kind of get some dark spots and light spots and then just kind of fill it in with blending. Next, I'm grabbing some of the clouds. There's 3 sizes of clouds in this kit and they're all kind of meant to work together or separately. I started out with the larger cloud, went to the medium-sized cloud, and then I'm going to connect them with this long, skinny cloud. I just like the way it kind of mimics the way clouds will kind of get wispy and long in the sky. And that was done with some hickory smoke. And then I'm just going to go in and start with some blending. Again, I'm back to that fossilized amber. I'm using some of my smaller blending brushes because I wanted more of a line look. You can use the bigger blending brushes if you don't have the smaller ones. It'll work out fine. Your lines, though, won't be as fine and narrow like mine are. Next, I'm just going to go in and add some of my blue sky, and I'm using tumbled glass for that. I started out with one of my tiny blending brushes, and I was like blending with a toothbrush. I wasn't getting anywhere, so I grabbed my larger blending brush, and now I can get a much larger surface blended with a little bit less effort. And I'm just building up the color. I'm doing light layers and just doing layer after layer after layer to kind of build up the vibrancy of the color. And that way I don't get really stark blotchy colors when I lay that down. I kind of do it lightly so I can build up the color and it's a nice even blend. The Bristol Smooth paper really helps with that blending process. Next, I'm coming in with a bit of Festive Berries. I'm going to add some red to my sunset. And again, using one of my smaller blending brushes so I can get some lines of color. And then just blending that out a little bit with the tumbled glass. Just kind of blend it all in. And then I'm adding a bit of purple just right below the tree line. I did some Googling of sunsets just to get some ideas of what colors are in the sky when the sun starts to set and you get that big, the vibrant change of colors. And the main colors were blue, yellow, red, and purple. And so that's what I ended up using for my scene here. Next, I'm going to kind of blend those clouds out, kind of make them a little more wispy. So I'm using that hickory smoke again. There's lots of layering going on and building up the colors in this background. I just really wanted a depth of color and a depth of scene, so I'm just building layer after layer. If I see something that I need to redo or just add more color to, I'm just going over it one more time. So that's how I ended up getting such a nice deep color of the sky, is because I'm doing lots of layers of blending. I added a little bit of that hickory smoke behind the tree line, and then I did a bit above the sky as well to kind of create a vignette around the image. Next, I'm going to work on the grass here, and I'm just using one color for that. I am using the peeled paint, and this one I did want to have splotches of color because I wanted some variation in that grass. And so sometimes I put it down heavy, sometimes I put it down light, and now I'm just going over with a nice light even blending of that grass color peeled paint. Next, I wanted to add a bit more blue and deepen up the shadow behind the trees. So I grabbed faded jeans, and I'm just doing that right behind the tree line, a little bit actually into the grass line, and then behind the trees as well. And then just to really darken everything up, again to make it feel like the sun is setting, I'm using a bit of black soot, and I'm creating a vignette around the entire page, or the entire grass area, and the trees. I wanted to darken those up so they almost created like a dark shadow of tree line. And then last, I kind of wanted some of that dimension back in those clouds. So I picked up my hickory smoke one more time, and I'm just stamping over all the blended clouds that I have there. This has a dotted effect to the clouds, so it just creates again a bit of dimension and texture to those clouds that I kind of lost in the blending process. And last, we just have that nice thin line of clouds, and I'm going to connect some of the clouds in the sky and add some wispy lines of clouds. And then I'm also going to use it to kind of define the horizon line and make it look like there's some trees or bushes in the background behind the trees. And I just use that to kind of blend the different horizon lines of the tree stamp as well. So in the process of doing all that blending, I kind of lost the lines of the stamp. So I probably could have done the blending first and then came back in and did the stamping afterwards. Would have made my life a lot easier by doing that, but I didn't know. So this first time around, I'm just going to correct that by using my transparency to line up my trees and to restamp my horizon line of the trees. And the transparency really helps with that, so I don't get too much of a shadow or shadow stamping, and it just helps to line those trees up so they go over exactly where they were the first time. And you can tell the difference in restamping that image. It just really created the definition of those trees and really popped the black color once again. Now I'm just going to add in a few little birdies to the tree line and then my sentiment. This would have been beautiful as a sympathy card, but I didn't need one at the moment. I did need a birthday card, so there is a birthday sentiment included in this kit, and that's what I decided to use. But there's so many different sentiments in this kit that are just perfect for lots of different occasions, so you're sure to find one that you can use for what you need at the moment. Now I just die cut that down, and I'm going to glue that directly down onto some black cardstock. And then I'm just going to mat that with a thin layer of that black cardstock. I just want a thin border just to kind of help it pop against the card front, which is white. And I'm just going to use my trimmer to trim that down, just kind of eyeballing it. I wasn't really sure about the spacing, so I used one side and then used that as a guide to trim off the sides there. Perfect. Now I'm just going to wrap around some of this black burlap string, one of my go-to accents. I just really wanted to keep it simple. This is a soft serene card, and so I just added a little bit of string to the bottom just to create a little bit of texture and just one little accent. Put a bit of foam adhesive back behind my panel, and then just glue that straight down into the center of the card. And then I thought at the last minute, I always like a little bit of sparkle, so I thought I could create a bit of sparkle from the sunset. And I'm using my Wink of Stella to create that sparkle. You do have to be extra careful because it will pick up that distress ink and kind of move it around. So that's why you see me dotting this onto my paper rather than swiping and blending, because it would move the color. And you can see that Wink of Stella in the background there, and it'll dry a little bit clearer and not so stark. So this is the finished card with a very soft and serene feel. You can almost feel the sunset going down. And even though I chose a birthday sentiment, there's lots of different occasions you could use this set for. I'll have all the supplies linked in the description of this video. If you have any questions or a sweet comment, post below. Thank you so much for creating with me. I hope you were inspired, and I'll see you next time. Bye.